And welcome to Mike Ferry TV. We're having a fun series of little conversations with top agents and coaches. You know, people ask me, why are we mixing up the format? Because as Mitch knows, who's next to me on the screen, this is normally just Mike Ferry doing a little lecture. And I thought it'd be fun for September, October to bring some of the great people that we get to work with together with us and share some advice, some ideas and some thoughts. So let's welcome today Mr. Mitch Choboian, who works out of the Central Valley of California and then has the good fortune, because of his success, having a home over towards the beach, and he's there today. So Mitch, welcome and thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. So how long have you been in real estate now? Because I think it's been quite a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I forget. The years blend. 1981 when I started.
So 81, 91, 01, 00. Oh my gosh, you're a longtime veteran. I think when you and I, we both had dark hair. So I
exactly.
think
and I had more of it.
More of it and much darker. I hear you on that. And how long have you been working with MFO, either as an agent, client, or as a?
Yeah, as an agent, I think in 1985, 86, you came to the Central Valley. That's when I first was exposed to you.
Good.
And as a coach, 2013.
Good for you. That's great. And how many clients do you coach?
I go between 37 to 39, right in there. Right now, I'm at 38.
And do you still operate a small team for your residential business also?
Yes, which includes me and 2 assistants.
Good. And so what personal production, I wouldn't think you would have a lot of time coaching that many people to do many transactions. Is your production remaining okay, constant?
Yeah, my goal is 75. I'm on track to do 81. That's the numbers I want to stay at, 75 to 80 right there.
So doing 75 to 80 transactions, coaching 30 to 35 people, sounds like you don't have a lot of free time for yourself.
I do, because I'm very disciplined in my schedule. It's all planned out, but yes, in a way I do actually.
So talk to me about that. The coaching, of course, brings some interesting and exciting and difficult challenges at times. What are some of the biggest challenges? Well, let me first ask you, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as an agent? Because this market has been so crazy for the last 18 months. As a top producing superstar agent, what are some of the challenges you face?
Well, probably, and it would be not prejudging any source. And what I mean by that is when you constantly hear expireds aren't that good. They are. They're just not as good as they used to be, and they'll change. So you got to take the approach. I can call one expired today and I can get that listing today. It happens. It's not like it used to be. Same thing for sale by owners. Oh, they're all selling. Yeah, a lot of them are selling, but there's still one. I listed one the other day on the first call, first date. That doesn't happen very often. But you got to block your mind that I can get that appointment today. So not prejudging a source because everybody's telling you that source doesn't work.
Well, I'm going to make a note of that thought, Mitch, not prejudging the source.
Right.
I wish if everybody that watches Mike Ferry TV, and we have a lot of viewers every week, if they would just focus on that thought. If folks listen to me, that's coming from a 30-year veteran who's been a top producer for 30 years and is still doing 75 deals. Will actually hit 81 this year, in addition to being a top flight coach. So not prejudging the source. So I'll take a different approach. I know you coach some really fun, exciting, productive agents. Can you give me some of the common qualities that you see these agents have? Because, you're spending a lot of time with them every week. What do you see as the commonalities on these agents?
Number one, they're engaged in the system. Blind faith. There's no question. I don't have to sell them. The system works. They're 100% engaged. They're in the conversation on our coaching calls, going to Mike Ferry events, mastermind groups, role play. They're total faith in the system. That's number one. Second is they're very, very passionate. It's not a job. They're very passionate about their business, their career, and that means they're very competitive too. I think another thing that's important, they're transparent. They're honest. So in other words, when they do their numbers, and as a coach, it's a lot easier to coach someone when you know what they're doing, but they're honest with their numbers. They want an appointment, they didn't get it, they're going to tell me. And I'll say, well, did you pre-qualify? Well, yeah. Did you ask all the questions? Well, no. But they're very honest with me about that. And then we can help each other grow. So I'd say just being very truthful with their numbers and with their activities. That would be my opinion. Those three things are huge.
So I wrote down the blind faith, which you and I have talked time and time again, and the fact that they're going to be very passionate. I wrote that down. Which I wrote participation next to being passionate. You mentioned mastermind groups, role play, accountability partners showing up for their calls each week with you. And I'm sure, and I want all of our listeners to understand this, they're not passionate because of Mitch and Mike. They're passionate because of what they're trying to accomplish and what they're trying to do. But I think what you said third, I don't think that agents ever try to disguise what they do. I think sometimes, Mitch, they just don't quite understand what they do, so they don't know how to track their numbers. And I know, because I know a lot of your clients very well, you're fanatical about tracking numbers. Do you do it? You have to do it in your own personal business also, I would assume.
Yes. Like you always said, the numbers don't lie. And that tells you, as a coach and as an agent, if you go on an appointment, you don't get that listing. Why? What happened? And that's how you can learn and grow if you break it down. So absolutely, I try to walk the talk.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So I'll take an example for your personal numbers, listings taken to listing presentations made. What is your closing percentage?
Right now it's 80%. Usually it was 85, 87%, but this year it's lower because I'm trying to go on more appointments, and it's tougher this year. Definitely, they're interviewing and you're competing against cut rate commission. So it's 80%, but it usually hovers around 85, 86%. So it's down a little bit this year.
Which is really phenomenal, because I think the national average is about 22%. So for all of our listeners, again, to know that if Mitch goes on 10 listing presentations, 8 of them sign a contract, where the average agent goes on 10 and gets 2 signed. And the only difference is what Mitch says to the seller. So how important to you are all the scripts and dialogues that we've always taught and that you're teaching?
It's everything. And that allows you to get in there and get out 15 minutes. But I always say on a listing presentation, and obviously you've taught me this, it's before you get there. And I always say, if you're thorough and you're pre-qual, going deep in the questions, unless you show up and you don't throw up on them, you're going to get the listing, because you know everything before you get there. And I think that's 80, 90% of it. I really, really do. The more you can communicate before you get there, I think is huge.
Well, and you and I teach this every day, that if they will actually ask all the pre-qualifying questions. A mutual friend of ours, who's a great agent like Mitch, called me a couple of years ago, and he said, I'm having a little challenge with the pre-qualifying. And I thought, well, that's unusual. He's a 25-year client. And we went through it. He was leaving one question out. And then we figured out that one question leaving out cost him a couple $100,000 over 5 years, because of presentations did not go in the style and fashion he would like. So I know some of your clients, as I stated very well, and I know that you're not only fanatical about this, but you're also pretty tough on them when they don't do it. So how respond to a client that says, well, Mitch, I just didn't have time to go through that pre-qualifying and pre-listing package. I'm just too busy. How do you respond?
Well, I said, how do you feel when you go out there and you prepare, you mail out your pre-listing package, everything, you don't get the listing? How much did that cost you? So we break it down. I mean, it's going to cost you way more time and emotional, frustration of going there and not getting it and losing it, or going back a second, third time because you didn't do your homework up front. It is so important to follow everything. Absolutely, all the questions. And when you get there.
Yeah, that's good. We have a great family doctor here in Las Vegas, and he's my age. And two funny things I've mentioned in the past, but I've always said to him, when are you going to retire? He said, when you do. I said, well, I guess you're going to keep working, right?
Exactly.
But I said today is the real key to great medical success for you as a doctor, the actual treating of the client or the preparation to it. He said, it's all preparation. He said, we spend all of our time analyzing before we ever take any action or make recommendations. And I said to him, you'd make a great realtor. Okay?
Exactly. Exactly.
It's the same thing. So if you were to identify one major or big challenge that agents face as they commit to themselves or their broker manager or you and I that they want to build a business. And I'll give you an example of that after you share with me your thought. What is an example of a challenge they face?
Well, I would say all year long and last year, and especially going forward, you have to work all the sources of the business. You can't get enough business in one source. And that's why I go back to, you can't prejudge your source. If you do that, then you won't call. So to be balanced, you have to call new expireds, old expireds, for sale by owners, absentee owners, past client center influence, all of it to give you a consistent, balanced, growing business. Always. Not every other week, every day though. That's the challenge. Every day you got to figure out and break it down to call all four sources every day. Not once a week, every day.
I had an email a couple of days ago, Mitch, and I know you received these also. He said, I've been with MFO for 5 years, been in coaching for 4 years. I'm doing 40 deals a year. His average commission check is 10 grand. So he's making very good money as a real estate agent. And he said, but I see all these people that are doing 75, 100, 150. He said, what's the difference? And I wrote back to him, consider just the word belief. You know, you believe in yourself. I believe in myself. You and I believe in what we teach. Your top agents believe they are the best agent for that particular buyer or seller. So would you say that if you take all the sources and then you put the belief into it, they should win most of the time, shouldn't they?
Absolutely. Mike, actually, I always, when I coach a client, I'll say, before you call a source, there's really 3 things I've learned from the MFO. Number 1, you have to believe it works. You have to believe you can do it. That's first. Second, you just got to master that script. Third, develop a system. But if you don't believe in what you're doing, then you're not going to be good at the script and you're not going to set up a system. It's all in the head. Absolutely.
I remember one day sitting and talking to an agent at one of our retreats, Mitch, and the guy said to me, how do I create that belief? I said, well, if you go on a listing, do you really believe you're the right agent? And he looked at me and he said, not all the time. I said, well, that's why you get 50% instead of 80%.
Right.
You know? So if you were doing a little seminar today for a couple dozen agents and they said, give us 2 or 3, I mean, I've already taken a half a page of notes on what you've said. So thank you for that. And I hope our viewers are doing the same. What are 2 or 3, if you were talking to a small group, of ideas you want to share so they can someday have the success that they want?
Number 1, I'm going to go back to it. You got to go 100% in MFO. If you delay, you're delaying the process. And I think it was Michael Young you had on stage one time, and he said, he asked you that question, how do I get there faster? Well, 1, we know it takes time, but go to more events. And I think Michael said he doubled and tripled everything. Instead of going to 4 events, he went to 8 events. And instead of role playing once a day, role played 3 times a day. So 100% get 180% get involved in everything. That's how you're going to grow and learn, talking to other people, other markets. You learn from that. And then really the second is the schedule, the discipline to follow the schedule. I always tell coaching clients, there's a reason why Mike put that number 1. You can be a great agent, you've been good on the phone, good at presentations, but if you don't show up, it means nothing. So the discipline to follow the schedule. But I'm going to add to that, the afternoon too. Everybody does the morning, that's half the game, but they don't do things in the afternoon, that dead spot between 1 and 4. Are they going to the door? You know, I was reading the other day, Mike, in your lead follow-up for expireds and FSBOs. Call them in the morning, call them at noon, call them at 7 o'clock. And if you can't get a hold of them on the phone, go to the door. Hardly anybody does that. Discipline to follow the schedule.
Well, that is such great advice. And I know, Mitch, that anybody that's viewing today will want to watch this every day this week, because as I said to all of them, I've got a whole long list of things I've written down based on what Mitch suggested. And any one of these ideas can help a person propel their business forward. One of the things for all of our viewers that Mitch and I don't believe in is magic formulas, but I have to tell you, Mitch, I could just write common sense down above your name here, and that's what you've presented. So I want to say thank you for your time today. Thanks for your participation. Thanks for being a great customer for a long time and a great coach. And I hope we have many, many, many more years to work together and enjoy this experience. So thank you for today, and we'll look forward to seeing you very soon.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks again for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Good. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.